Well, on the heels of Brooke Henderson making history again, we thought we'd ask Golf Canada's CEO Laurence Applebaum, good friend of the show, to join us here on GTC LA. We saw a lot of each other last week at the CPKC Women's Open. Good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. It's great to see you. And it was an awesome week at the CPKC Women's Open. And I mean, we went from highlight to highlight to highlight, but let's start with, our personal
Hmm.
highlight was playing with the world number one, Gino Didikal from Thailand in the pro-am. I mean, you impressed, my friend. You were great.
Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you for the invite too. That was a last second on the Tuesday night before our Wednesday radio show. So Week Z and Z took the puck from me as hosting duties on the Wednesday morning. But it was great to play the golf course and see Gino in action. And you and I were walking together on fairways asking her questions, but we were also looking at her golf swing and how inspiring her game is and her tempo, right? Like she just makes it look so easy as world number one.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, they haven't got a chance to get to know her a little bit because she's a young number one and she's not been on the tour for that long. But what an amazing tempo! I mean, both you and I took a little bit of time to say like how are you hitting some of those short, really deep rough shots with this amazing tempo, getting through the grass. And I took away that sort of that determined process that she has, and tempo is everything for her. And she also, I don't know if you remember, Adam, but she didn't make a lot of birdies in the pro-am. She didn't miss a single shot, but she didn't make a lot of birdies. And then she came out on Thursday and was like four birdies in her first six holes. So it was pretty impressive. Just watch her learning the golf course, watching her make her way around. And she was very, very kind to both of us and a great, a really great LPGA Tour ambassador.
100%. We got to play with Vanessa Borovilos as well, which was really cool too. Now, we got to talk about Brooke Henderson. I mean, she makes history again. Now, a two-time CPKC Women's Open tournament winner. LA, for you, just what was it like the atmosphere that Sunday afternoon at Mississauga Golf and Country Club as you got to witness Brooke Henderson do what she did?
Yeah, you sort of sometimes run out of superlatives for Brooke, but it was Saturday was very special in watching her make her way around in a moment where she wasn't last group on Saturday, if I remember correctly, and but she shot the low round of the day, and she didn't miss a shot around the whole golf course, and stuff started falling. I think she was superb on the back. I think she might have been 31 or something like that on the back nine. And I just thought, my God, the focus, the determination, she was just so lasered in. And I think it might have been your colleague, Kara Wagland, who said on when she holed out on that eagle from the sand, it was like it wasn't, the highs weren't too high, the lows were never low. And she just kept going about her business. Sunday was superb. This sort of almost match play with her and Minji Lee, really great theater. Great to see her perform. She closes the deal with her second national championship, and this sort of run we've had in the last 5 years of Brooke, then Nick, and now Brooke again, and having our Canadian icon Sandra Post there to be there to see it all was really just a superb day.
It really was just so cool. And we've talked for years about the Mike Weir effect in 2003 when he wins the Masters. And then you think of Brooke and you think of Nick, to your point, too. But how many young fans did you see out there at Mississauga who could be the next Brooke Henderson, which is really cool?
Yeah, that's probably a lot of what we're so passionate about. What we do is we're walking around, we see young boys and girls, we see Brooks Brigade, we see the reception by Canadians, and then what I always love looking at, Scully, is you look at on the outside the ropes and you see people working on their swing, like you see them like miming their swing, which we all do, and I think that's so cool. But I also think like how many fans, and I also think the golf course was one of the stars of the show. I think the Mississauga Golf and Country Club should be so proud of how that golf course looked on TV around the world, a billion people watching it all around the world, and seeing just how special of a place it is and how it held up against the greatest players in the world from the LPGA Tour, and they were unanimous in how wonderful golf court was to play. It was tough. It was a real test, but it was really a great spot to see, and I think you would concur that it was up for the moment.
And we got to see it again the Monday after the tournament, and the rough was luscious. The greens were tricky. It was a world-class venue. Now, Brooke Henderson wasn't the only Canadian to shine at the CPKC Women's Open, because we got to talk about the 15-year-old Aphrodite Dang. I mean, has a piece of the lead in the first round, ends up finishing T20. But LA, I'm not sure about you, but at 15 years old, I wasn't competing in professional golf tournaments. She's so impressive, isn't she?
Oh, she's really that, Adam. I mean, so she won this really big junior invitational event at Sage Valley, which is just outside of Augusta, believe it or not. And she won this great event at this great club, and sort of put herself on the map. She was still 14 at the time. She then goes and wins the U.S. Junior, the national championship for
Yep.
the USGA. And going back and forth a little bit with my counterpart in the USGA, CEO Mike Wan, he's like, Aphrodite, and I said, yeah, she's a real deal. She wins that. She comes back and seemed unfazed by it, Adam. Like, I think that was so cool. You know, you're at the top of the leaderboard as a 15-year-old amateur, and then she kind of went day to day to day. She had a member on the bag. I think that was a bit of a story that went around.
Yeah.
The club champion was on the bag, and he was as proud as could be. Um, and she was a little disappointed, that she dropped a little bit on Sunday, and I just think it showed her seeing Brooke live, her competing with Brooke. Somebody asked me on Saturday, "What's your dream scenario for Sunday?" And I was like, "Well, you asked me the dream. It's going to be like Brooke and Aphrodite in the final group." It didn't happen, but low amateur, our top Canadian takes home the big prize. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better story.
And that sort of brings me right to the next point. And we had a brief conversation about this during the Pro-Am too, just the overall growth of Golf Canada and how there's these big goals to have, do I have this right, 30 or 32 pros on both the LPGA and PGA Tour in the next couple of years? When you see the impact that Brooke has had on this next wave, that Nick Taylor and Corey and Mac and the Adams that they've had on this next wave too, you've got to be excited for the future of golf in Canada on a professional scale.
Yeah, so we put out this lofty goal 3 years ago, which was 30 players on the LPGA and PGA Tour by 2032, and we're tracking towards that goal. We've had a really strong year on the PGA Tour. We had 8 at one moment. We had 9, a couple injuries, and I think we're looking good on the men's side. And then this next group coming along behind Brooke, the Savannah Gruels. We had Motomi LeBlanc, who was great to see her make the cut on the weekend. Um, but we have this whole group coming along, led by people like Aphrodite, who we talked about, Vanessa Borovilos, who's entering her second year at Texas A&M, Katie Cranston, who's a senior at Alabama, a whole other group of Anna Huang, who's a 15-year-olds on the Ladies European Tour. So what we're hoping is that this next wave that's come along, and I should also, of course, mention Elena Sharp, who I know didn't have her best week personally, but she is still grinding and still going to have a great, I think she's going to have a great finish to the year. The qualifications, on the PGA Tour, at PGA Tour University, at PGA Tour Americas, at the Epson Tour qualies, we're fingers crossed. We're going to have another more added to the group, but we're tracking towards it. And, it's great to see Team Canada doing great across the board.
It really is. And throughout CPKC Women's Open Tournament Week, there was a lot of big news that came out. And you could say one of the most noteworthy pieces of news, of course, was RBC, and RBC
Sure.
signing a multi-year extension as the sponsor of both the RBC Canadian Open and the RBC Heritage. Here in Canada, what's the significance of this news for RBC and the RBC Canadian Open?
Well, I'm not sure if there's any bigger news, Adam, than that. As you said, RBC came along at the end of 2007, started 2008 as our title sponsor, and since then, it's impossible to talk about golf in this country without the support of RBC and what they've done to support golf, both on the men's side, the women's side, the participation side. Our junior initiatives has been spectacular. This long-term agreement with RBC to remain as our title sponsor on the Canadian Open, the RBC Canadian Open, and the RBC Heritage, as you said, which remains a signature event on the PGA Tour, is fantastic. The strength when you look at our Canadians at any event, and this past weekend was just one of those weekends where you go, Nick Taylor and Corey competing in the Tour Championships, Brooke, Elena competing at the CPKC Women's Open. They're all wearing the RBC shield on their sleeve. And then this news to come out, which was just fantastic for us. We're thrilled. We can't wait for 2026 at the RBC Canadian back at TPC Toronto, Scully, which is, I know, a track that you've fallen in love with, like so many Canadians and people around the world, but we can't wait to get at it for next year.
Totally. And it was great to see TPC Toronto as the host this past June. And it's great that the RBC Canadian Open is heading back. Just how much of an advantage is that for everyone with the tournament with Golf Canada to say, hey, this worked really well last year. Maybe this didn't work well last year, to learn from those lessons, apply them into next year.
Yeah. So just like we are talking about with the CPKC Women's Open, and we'll talk about, where it's going next, but
Yeah.
year to year, moving it around the country, it's amazing to share this national championship across our nation. But it is hard operationally. It is hard because you need your reps. And for us to go back to back at TPC Toronto, the player feedback was exceptional. And the challenge probably is for people is they got to do a little bit more work at a new golf course. And so when it's a new location, they're learning it. They're learning the rhythm, the timing, everything, even outside the ropes. And we came away from 2025 going, here's our checklist of things that we can do even better for next year. We can make the logistics a bit easier. We can make the parking easier. We can make the transition easier. We have a few ideas about what we can make it more even intriguing for our players. But I will tell you that the golf course was in sublime shape. They've done a great job up at TPC Toronto. And if you haven't, I know you and many of your team have been up there lots, but if your listeners haven't been up there, it's just such a special place. You're 45 minutes from the airport and you feel like you're up north, you're out of the GTA, and it's really nice. It's like a field of dreams. So we're super excited. And we will also launch, officially open our new home for Canadian golf, which is the Golf Canada headquarters, which will open officially in 2026 as well.
A couple of exciting things. And as we wrap here in closing, LA, you mentioned next year as well, CPKC Women's Open next year, heading to Royal Mayfair, which is incredible. I know a couple of people at Royal Mayfair. They're so excited. How excited are you for the world of golf to see Royal Mayfair next year?
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget about the specialness that comes with this royal designation. But Royal Mayfair, we were there in 2015. Lydia Ko won one of her first two events. She went back to back, and I can't remember if it was the first or the second, to be honest. But I would talk to Lydia a bit, and she's like, "We're going back to a special place." And I was like, "Yeah, we are." Those folks were in town along with Tourism Edmonton and a nice delegation to bring it back out in Alberta, to go back out west, to come with our 90 odd best top 100 LPGA Tour professionals. Western hospitality is special, as you know, Scully. We're so excited to go out there, continue. And having Brooke defending always just adds when you're defending champion, we get to call her up and say, not only, Brooke, can you be out there, but you're a defending champion. It's so good. It just leads us into an amazing start for 2026.
It certainly does. And Brooke Henderson making history yet again at the CPKC Women's Open a couple of weeks back. She'll be the defending champion next year. LA, as always, thanks so much for your time today. It was so much fun to spend so much time with you at the CPKC Women's Open, and looking forward to catching up, hopefully, for a little fall ball together.
I love it, and you're inspiring me to, get into the gym. I got to hit it longer, Scully.